Hey, San Antonio, make some noise. We have a big issue here in San Antonio. Make some noise if you hate eminent domain. Hey, make some noise. Make some noise if you grew up in kindergarten and they told you not to steal from others what's not yours to take.
Yeah!
Hey, if you got the spirit of Texas in you, make some noise. We got some really good speakers today. I want you to hype up my speakers. I want you to pump them up. I want you to be engaged with my speakers today. My name is J.R. Haseloff. I am the chair of the Libertarian Party here in Bexar County. I am very excited that you all decided to spend your Saturday afternoon with us. We got a lot of speakers. We got a lot of great content, and we're here for a really good reason. All right, first off, we're here because we're going to fight injustice. That's what's happening right now in San Antonio. Do you feel me?
Yeah.
We're fighting injustice. Said differently, we are here to stop a theft in progress. That's what's happening here in San Antonio. And then finally, maybe this is my personal opinion, the most important reason that we are here is to send a message to politicians here in San Antonio and throughout Texas that we will not put up with eminent domain. Eminent domain may happen throughout this country, but if it happens here in San Antonio, if it happens here in Texas, you better expect a fight.
What about the lifers and the death row?
The other thing is, if you have it here and you have the gall to have eminent domain here on the grounds of the Alamo, sir, man, you better expect a fight. That's not going to happen, okay? And there's a lot of bad guys that we could talk about, right? San Antonio City Council voted 9-2 to take Vince Cantu's Moses Rose's bar from him. 9-2. So let's talk about them. That's 8 city councilmen, plus your mayor, Ron Nirenberg, voted for eminent domain. I do want to call out, I'd be remiss not to call out, the 2 city council members who voted against eminent domain. It's Terry Castillo and Jalen McKee Rodriguez. Hey, there are people in this world that don't agree with you on every policy position, but we're all here for one reason only, right? Stop eminent domain and stop the theft of a bar. And these are 2 city councilmen, city council persons who made the right vote. So let's get a real quick round of applause for them. Hey, so that's San Antonio for you. As we kind of escalate up to the state of Texas, we got a couple bad guys there too. We got the GLO office. Oh man, the GLO office. Your girl, the Texas Land Commissioner, Dawn Buckingham. Hey, the gall of Dawn Buckingham. Okay, 30 days before she got elected to office, she was campaigning on a platform of we have to stop eminent domain. And right now we have the #1 cheerleader, the #1 director, the #1 executor of this eminent domain action is who? Boo this woman, Dawn Buckingham, people. Hey, you have a governor up there in Texas as well, Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott's not standing up against eminent domain. He's pushing it through. He's got an attorney general. Hey, you got the joke? Yeah. You got an attorney general as well who's silent. All right. These are people that I'm going to ask you, and our speakers today are going to come up and ask you to contact and make a big stink for. Okay. These are people who are doing the wrong thing, and it's the people who will show up on a Saturday afternoon in Travis Park who have the wherewithal to actually do something about it. We're going to do something about it today. Okay. Okay, I got some good news and I got some bad news for you. The good news is I agree with you against the immoral use of eminent domain. The good news is, as I talked to people walking around the Alamo last week, a lot of people agree with us. That's the good news. We got some bad news though. The bad news is we have a lot of work to do. The bad news is we've got a lot of work to do. The rally is not the thing that we're trying to accomplish. The rally is where we start. The rally is where we hold great signs to say, hell no GLO. The rally is the kicking point for us to go further. We've got letters to the editor to write. We have representatives at the city and state level to contact. Okay? We have politicians to tar and feather. Figuratively. Maybe. Hey, it starts now and it doesn't stop until one of 2 things happen. The eminent domain case goes away. Not at all, not at a high likelihood that's going to happen. Or Vince Cantu is in receipt of an offer where he voluntarily sells his bar for what he feels is just compensation. That's the end of the road. Are you with me? Okay, so we can leave the rally today. We can go on Facebook. We can complain. We can make some memes. That's not going to do it. What the speakers are going to ask, actually, you know what? The memes are pretty fire. Keep making those memes. So keep those memes coming. But what you have to do, and what the speakers are going to call you to do, is if you have a sign in your hand right now that has a QR code on it, hold that in the air for me. Scan me. There we go. These QR codes are all around us. These QR codes will go to a site. The very first button on that site says "Take action against eminent domain." Everything you need, all of the contact information, everything except for the home locations of some of these politicians, is on that link. What we're going to ask you to do is actually take action. When you leave tonight, this is my number one call to action for you. Don't let the rally be the thing that you helped for the cause. We need your time, we need your efforts, and we need you to do it here in about the next 10 days. There's a concentration of effort where we have to show them that we will not put up with this eminent domain in our city. You good with that? Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of administrative bits before I hand it over to our first speaker. Ground rules. This is a peaceful protest. Okay, this is a peaceful protest. Currently, Vince is in negotiations. If we had bad headlines, that would reduce his leverage at the negotiating table. This is not what we are. We are a peaceful, this is a peaceful protest. If someone's going to start violence, that person's probably a Fed. Just tease those people, ignore those people, and just ignore those people. That's the first rule. Peaceful protest. I don't want to be in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Second rule of the protest: heed the call to actions. The speaker's going to get up and tell you to do very specific things. If you need to take notes, take notes. Not doing those things means it was a worthless evening for us. And then number 3, engage with your speakers. The speakers are going to come up here and they're going to try to pump you up. I want you to engage with them, yell at them, be involved, and get as loud as you can, because I think we can break some noise decibel stuff here in Travis Park, and actually that's my goal. So please do that. The agenda is, from now until I run out of speakers, we will be here in Travis Park. When we leave Travis Park, we're going to go right over there where it says East. We're going to go through that intersection between the two buildings. We will go 1 block down. You're going to dead end into a Voodoo Donut. At Voodoo Donut, you'll take a left. You go about 1,000 feet, and we will finish off the protest at Vince's bar. He's been very gracious to open that up for us tonight. He's got something called cold beer, which I'm very interested in. We hope that you will all be there, and that is where we're going to hear Vince's comments. You do not want to miss it. Please follow us down there and make that. I heard there was pizza. Okay, on to the speakers, and I kind of have to preface before we start getting into speakers. We have a very diverse group of speakers today. From all walks of life. There are libertarians among us, there are Republicans among us, there are Democrats among us, there are independents and party agnostic speakers among us. Okay, I personally do not agree with every policy position of all these speakers. Is that a bad thing? No. All right. The Libertarian Party doesn't agree with every single policy position of the speakers. Is that a bad thing? No. Hey, it shouldn't, right? This just makes sense. It's kind of like the libertarian person standing right in front of me. I guarantee you, we don't agree on all the same policy positions. Hey, it's time we get past this thing where if we're going to make our country better, that we're only going to work with people who wear our team colors. If we're going to make Texas better, you can't just work with the people who are on your team. And if we're going to make San Antonio better, we got to reach across the aisle. We have to find single issue coalitions just like this, and we got to make the things happen. Is that good? Yeah, if you guys are just joining us and you don't have a sign, please walk up to my right, your left. Make sure to grab one of those signs. Joe will point you in that. Hey, anyone here heard of some guy named Ron Paul? Okay, Ron Paul made it very clear when it comes to single issue coalitions that this is the future of liberty in America. If you want more freedom here in San Antonio, or if you want more liberty here in San Antonio in your own backyard, you're gonna have to reach across the aisle, find a topic to advocate for, and go smash in the teeth of the government. Okay, you have to do that. You're not going to be able to do it with your own party, and that's really the point of me prefacing all of our speakers. Is that it's great that we can have speakers come up and we can talk on this one great issue, this one eminent domain issue, and nobody has to compromise their principles. That's the point of today. That's the point of our speakers. Okay, so if you're interested in that, the Libertarian Party is interested in that. As the chair of the Libertarian Party in Bexar County, I am interested in that. If you or your organization is doing anything local and you want to bring liberty or freedom here, I would be personally offended if you did not call me, because it's a great cause. We will support it, just like we're supporting the great cause today. Y'all want to give it one more round of applause, and let's get into our speakers. Okay, just making sure I can see my speaker. Hey, our first speaker is a candidate for City Council District 8, and he's promised not to vote for eminent domain to steal your bar to build a 4D theater as asked for. He believes in principles of limited government and personal responsibility, which equates to lower taxes and reducing the amount of government interference in your personal life, as well as government interference in your business. So give me a big, warm welcome for Cesario Garcia. Come on in, man.
Hello. Hello, folks. Cesario Garcia here, resident 26 years. What are we here for? Stop the steal. All right, stop the steal. Okay, so real quick. My opponent voted for this to take Mr. Smokey Mo's bar away from him. Now, what do you think about that? That guy needs to go. I tell you right now, we have a chance to flip this whole city on its side and give us the ability to vote against and give this man keep his bar in place. That's the biggest thing right now. Now, what I would say is that for me, stopping the steal means across the board. Stop the steal and quit giving us and quit force feeding us all kinds of crap when it comes to city council. We need to stand up for our small business owners, our medium-sized business owners, and let them know we will stand beside them, behind them, and give them the ability to be equitable in our city. This is the biggest thing that really bothers me the most, is that we have an opportunity right now for this event to show that the city of San Antonio is going to be behind this gentleman in his place of business. And as your city councilman in my district, District 8, I will vote against this 100%. I will vote against it. I will vote against any kind of legislation that'll put somebody out on the street just because they want to take your stuff. So once again, my name is Cesario Garcia. Thank you for y'all's time. Let's stop the steal and then go have a beer after this. How about that?
Hey, my next speaker today is Chris Baecker. Chris Baecker is a candidate for City Council District 6. City Council District 6 is what he's running for right now. He's an accountant, but for fun on the side, he teaches economics, which makes sense. You'll probably see his work. He's published on Real Clear Markets, Fee.org, FreeThePeople.org, Mises.org. A little bit too much to count there. You can see his work everywhere. He is the policy director, editor, writer for a no-nonsense local activist group here called Infuse SA, which we'll learn a little bit more about them here in as we go along. Probably most importantly, he's a metalhead and likes better music than you. Hey, Chris, come on up.
My name is Chris Baecker. I am running for City Council District 6 against one of the members of council that voted for this eminent domain. Set aside for the moment the gulf between the pittance the state is offering and what Vince has said he's willing to take. Set aside for the moment any malodorous racial overtones of this, and set aside the fact that some of the mainstream media have called him just one of 50 bars downtown, implying that he is somehow expendable. His bar is somehow expendable. They have made it clear that they are doing this for the financial viability of the Alamo renovation. This from a council that cannot even get a ballot proposition right. This from a council that passes programs that have private sector alternatives, and these programs end up spending 2 to 3 times as much as these existing alternatives. Just as the shutdowns of a few years ago were the natural conclusion of excessive regulation, This eminent domain is the natural conclusion of the state, the city, and the county continuing to chip away at our property rights via property taxes. Stop the steal. There is no way I would ever vote for eminent domain. In fact, one of the first things I'll do when I take office is continue to chip away at the property tax rate, so they don't even, so we're not driving people out of their homes or their businesses. And I do want to give a shout out to my group. JR mentioned it. I do write a couple of things for Mises. I did write something for this. It says, remember the Alamo, I think Moses Rowe's Last Stand, I think is what it's called, on Mises. And I also put it on our website, our Infuse essay. I'm just going to give us a shout out. We exist to advance personal and economic freedom for all citizens of Bexar County, and eminent domain for the financial interest of a beneficiary is not freedom. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Keep it going for Chris Baecker real quick. Sorry, I love my Buckingham Palace sign so much, I accidentally brought it up here with me. Hey, before we get to our next speaker, we had a speaker, the LP Texas chair, Whitney Bilyeu, was going to come down. She was going to be one of our final speakers this afternoon. She fell ill. She deeply regrets not being here. But I said, hey, give us something from a position point for the Libertarian Party of Texas. And so I've got just a really quick memo I'd like to read for you. First off, she sends her regards. She says, I deeply regret not being able to be there for you this evening on such an occasion such as this. It brings me tremendous joy and pride to know that you all came together to take this stand. The Libertarian Party of Texas platform holds firmly that under no circumstances should government have the power to force the transfer of land from a private entity to another against the will of the owner. LP Texas strongly opposes the use of eminent domain to establish toll roads, transportation corridors, or any other projects, public or private. We support the vested property rights above and on and below the surface, and there shall be no limitation by regulation, ordinance, or authority. There are few things more preposterous than forcibly acquiring the property of an individual for the use and benefit of any other entity. And the so-called authorities are doing it in this case. It is utterly absurd and obscene to claim to do so in the name of freedom. And then finally, whether the taking is for an elevated high-speed train through your backyard, a toll road over your pasture land, or a tourist attraction expansion replacing your fruitful family business in the town center, the Libertarian Party of Texas will stand with you against it. All right, I'm going to give the next speaker a chance to come up here and talk to you tonight. I've got George Rodriguez here. George Rodriguez is a former Reagan and Bush appointee. He's an author. He's a radio personality. He's the host of El Conservador. He's a news commentator. He was the former Tea Party president here locally, and he believes wholeheartedly in personal, political, and economic freedom. George, give it together.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank JR for inviting me. That's a beautiful dog. I just lost mine. I'm looking for another one. Anyway, folks, thank you very, very much for inviting me. Let me begin by telling you that in my book, the fight for freedom starts here. Not in Austin, not in DC, at City Hall. Those are the people that need to hear us. The second aspect of that, my friends, is notice, where's our friend from the news media? One person shows up from the local news media. However, if it was the socialists or the Marxists that were here, KSAT and all the rest of them would be here covering it. And not only that, if you notice, they never look for one of us to speak. They listen to them and they print them, because our enemy is not just at City Hall, it's in the journalistic media. That's where it's at. My friends, economic freedom is the basis of America. That's why all of our ancestors, including mine, that crossed the Bering Strait or that came from Spain. I don't know if they came from Spain. Quién sabe. They might have been, you know, quién sabe what they were. But anyway, they came for economic freedom, because growing personal wealth is the whole idea of America. And when you steal it, whether it's through taxes or eminent domain, it's theft. Call it what you want to, it is theft. My friends, look at charity. Shouldn't I have the right to give my money to whom I want, to whatever charitable organization I want? Instead, I am taxed, and my taxes are then distributed. And not only that, I am then thrown in jail if I don't pay my taxes. What is that? My friends, it is tyranny. There's no two ways around it. It is tyranny. This situation that we are facing here with this bar, with Mr. Cantu, is a situation, my friends, that is tyrannical. There is no two ways around it, and I hope the media says that. It is tyranny. There is no two ways around it. When you take somebody's property and you do it forcefully and threaten them, I mean, the threats are there now. Eight of the city council members. Can you imagine? I mean, somebody ought to sit them down and take their property. You know, this whole situation that we live in a society now where communal values trump your personal freedom, my friends, we cannot tolerate that. I don't care what you say about somebody else's need. Let me choose whether or not to take care of them. Let me choose whether or not to provide whatever to somebody. Let me take care of my family first, and then I can take care of somebody else. Let me take care of my property, and then I can take care of somebody else. My friends, this is an important fight. We need to go to City Hall. We need for them to hear us, particularly since they are all up for election in May. They need to hear us. They are scared to death of a few Marxists that show up on a regular basis at City Hall. Marxists. That's what they are. Marxists and racists. But we need to be heard. They need to hear us so that they feel the wrath of freedom and liberty. Thank you very much.
All right, we appreciate it. The next one, I've got Justin Greiss here with us. For those of you that don't know, Justin Greiss, he is a Texas-based political strategist. He was a former Rand Paul staffer. He's overseen the deployment of over 3,500 activists, specifically for liberty-minded candidates across the nation. He scored electoral wins in over 40 different states. He's with us today. He's representing the Republican Liberty Caucus, where he currently serves as the national endorsement chair for that organization. Put your damn hands together for Justin.
Thank you, JR. And I'll tell you this, I'm extremely impressed, JR, your organization and all the folks that came out 3 times, easily 3 times bigger than the average Joe Biden rally. So I think that means something here in the heart of San Antonio. As JR said, I'm representing the Republican Liberty Caucus today, and in my personal profession, I spend time unelecting terrible, weak corporate Republicans across the board. That's what I enjoy doing. And what I've learned along the way is a secret I want to let you all into today. Politicians care about 3 things: getting elected, getting reelected, and getting elected to higher office. What is that information good for? If we know what a politician cares about, we know where their pain points are. We know how to change their opinions, how to change their voting, and get them to vote correctly on the promises that they've stood for. In those pain points, here's the real secret, folks. These are very weak, fragile people. Politicians are no smarter, are no more talented, in fact, usually much less talented than the citizens here today. And the reality is, causing unease and pressure on them, these people will crack. This matters. This rally matters. Blasting those politicians matter. It only takes 10 phone calls to ruin a politician's day. Believe me, that's what I try to do before 9. Okay? It is very easy to get these fragile, weak people upset. And it really struck me here, especially as a Yankee who came to Texas in pursuit of freedom. I have to think on the Alamo grounds about the men who died and fought for us here. Do you think any of our current politicians would hold a candle to Davy Crockett fighting for our freedom? Do you think George P. Bush would be at the Alamo? Do you think Don Buckingham is going to be standing at the Alamo running a cannon? This woman shouldn't be running a pizza shop. This guy gets it. So many Austrian economists here and acolytes of the Mises School in the crowd. Mises told us that the key to society and organizing society and the economy is entrepreneurs. And when I heard the story of Vince and his entrepreneurship, I knew we had something special here. Because we got a guy who's not going to back down, a guy who could probably sell out for a comfortable paycheck at some point. But everything I've heard about Vince compelled me to come out here today, as I know many of you. I'm excited to meet him. I'm excited to drink his beer and leave a very large tip to him and his staff. So the last thing I'll say here is, in the spirit of the Alamo, in the spirit of Texas, and to all the Yankees, even some of the Californian transplants who joined this state, let's start to be the Texas the world thinks we are. Let's start to stand for something. Let's fight again. Let's unelect these weak corporate elites that want to take our property and ruin our economy. Thank you, JR.
Hey, keep it going for Justin Greiss, everyone. Okay, our next speaker is Brandon Burkhart. Now, Brandon Burkhart is the founder and president of This is Texas Freedom Force, which is a nonprofit, not politically affiliated with any party. What they do is they ally to any concepts around Texas, freedom, liberty, Constitution, or your God-given rights. Brandon personally has a story that I needed him to be here. It goes really well with what our issue is here today. He was a first responder at the Bundy Ranch standoff there in Nevada. So put your hands together for Brandon. Thank you.
Well, how's it going out there, Texans? And I want to hear it again. How's it going out there, Texans? Damn, sound like a bunch of New Yorkers the first time. Alrighty, y'all. My name is Brandon Burkhart. I'm the president of This is Texas Freedom Force. And I'm going to cut to the chase, and I'm going to be quite honest with y'all. There were some reservations about us showing up and throwing our support behind here. That's okay. Because I'm going to tell you that our guys had some reservations about showing up out here too. But we got to remember, this is about Moses Rose. This is about Mr. Cantu. This is about the stealing of his property, or the attempted stealing. We're not going to allow that to happen. Right. So therefore, we need to check our egos at the door. This isn't political. Both parties are involved. Nuremberg is as far Democrat as you get, and Buckingham's as far Republican as you get. We've got both sides attacking this man. And they hate it when you guys all come together. When they can keep you separated, they can continue to take advantage of you. But when the parties like this, the Libertarian Party, the Democrats, the Republicans, the Constitutionalists, everybody in between, join up together, we can put a stop to it. Like he said, I did go up to Bundy Ranch, and for those of y'all that remember the Bundy Ranch standoff, it started out over an eminent domain thing. It bloomed into so much more afterwards. I spent 6 weeks on the ground there. I watched as the Bureau of Land Management tried to come in and take this rancher's land. They shot his cattle, buried part of his cattle, which we had to go unbury, and every kind of intimidation tactic that you could think of. But guess what? People from all over the United States came to that rancher's aid. They came in there, and when I say when we showed up, we were the first crew from Texas to show up. There was already 1,000 people on the ground. There were so many camps that were in different locations in the desert, we had to figure out who we were going to work for. When we got done, we left in that 6 weeks. Guess what? The Bureau of Land Management, we had backed them out, walking backwards with their vehicles, with our rifles pointed at them. because they were pointing them at us. Now the Moses Rose situation, we all know Nuremberg, Buckingham, they're all crooked. We tried to warn y'all about Buckingham. Those of y'all that haven't gone to our YouTube and seen the back and forth that we've had with her when she was running for office, we caught her in several different lies. So the woman, she's got no respect, and Bush is just as bad as she is. I think of them as the same entity. They're both the same, George P. Bush and Donna Buckingham. So we've got to come together. We've got one goal, because this could be your home. This could be your business. And I hope that everybody would show up for you as well. This is not about us, and the last thing I'm going to say is that we need to get together and we need to put a stop to this. He's talking about calling your representatives. He's talking about calling the city council. Guess what? There's citizens to be heard coming up, I believe, next week, correct, Ramon? Let's all show up there. Tell them what we think of them. Not only that, this Texas Freedom Force will be in the Capitol this week. If any of y'all want to come out there, get with us before we leave today. We'll set aside some time to go in and speak to some representatives, especially some that work with us and that we have friendly relationships with, and hoping that they'll step in and try to stop this. Guys, y'all know we love the Alamo. We spent 3.5 years trying to fight for that Alamo cenotaph. We beat the city of San Antonio.
Amen.
But Moses Rose taking his property is wrong, and we're not going to stand for it.
All right, keep it going for Brandon with This is Texas Freedom Force. Judith Reuter, if you're in the crowd, I might not be able to see you, but come find me, please. Yeah, she's very tall. Hey, the next speaker is Joe Burns. Mr. Joe Burns is a lifelong entrepreneur in industries ranging from entertainment to the real estate industry. He is the chair of the Libertarian Party up in Llano County and a state Libertarian Executive Committee representative for Senate District 24, which is our neighbors right up here to the north. He works in the development department of the Libertarian Party of Texas, and he, most importantly, he's probably like my future cellmate, because him and I both prefer a very unapologetic, no-holds-barred advance to promoting change. Joe, come on up. Put your hands together, please. Joe Burns.
All right, guys. I didn't have time to memorize my speech, so I think it's going to benefit us all if I stick to the script, or we'll be here for an hour. So, excuse me while I dig this out. So, the Texas Freedom Force, you guys are great. I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate the fact that you keep the eyes on the people that don't respect liberty anymore. So, I'm glad you guys got a chance to come out. So, everybody knows why we're here. Stop the steal. That's pretty common. I didn't want to be here today. In fact, I'd pretty much like to be anywhere else but here on a Saturday afternoon. My RV's parked in Florida right now. I should be on a beach in West Florida taking dive lessons from some beautiful woman who's been paid handsomely to put up with my personality. But I'm here instead, just like many of you, because I feel obligated, because this shit pisses me off, to be frank. Sure, I could have come home to see family and friends, but I would have come back in a month from now. If you don't know, I'm also an insurance adjuster, and I was there helping people recover from the hurricane. Feeling compelled to fight these fights, it becomes an outrage. For those of you that are activists that do these things on a regular basis, these things just piss us off to our core. But there are so many things these days to be outraged about. 5 minutes on social media will show you any number of things. You just can't keep up. So you have to decide, what am I going to take a stand against? What am I going to throw my hat in the ring and fight? So as an active member of the Libertarian Party, as an executive committee member on the state party, I have to apportion my time accordingly and try to get the biggest bang for my buck that I can. So I have to make the determination, what is most important? What fights are going to be the most valuable to liberty in the long term? Which ones are going to make a difference? You've probably heard of the story of the little boy on the beach. He's walking along the beach. Old man's in the distance, sees him. Sees the boy picking things up and throwing them into the ocean. It's the morning after a big storm. So the old man, when the boy gets a little closer, he asks the little boy, he says, "What are you doing?" He said, What's going on? How you doing there? He's like, well, I'm throwing these starfish back into the ocean because, sun's up, tide's out, they're going to die. The old man says, man, there's miles of beach and there's thousands of starfish. There's no way you're going to be able to make a difference. Little boy bends down, picks another one up, throws it back in the ocean, looks up at the old man and says, I made a difference to that one. Mr. Cantu's property, Mr. Cantu's family, they deserve our efforts. They deserve our time. I haven't even got the pleasure of meeting the man yet, but when I read about his story, it compelled me to stay in Texas and fight this fight and skip going back to work for a little while. Because I can tell you that what we're doing today will make a difference to Mr. Cantu and his family. We will apply the appropriate amount of pressure to the politicians. They may still end up taking his land, but we will make them pay the price. When I choose what to fight for, I also want to have as great an impact on others as possible for the time I expend. Efficiency is important to me. When it comes to charity, I used to donate in silence. Now I donate and I'm loud about it because I want other people to be pressured into joining me, to multiply my efforts. And I do that with my political activism as well. If you're unaware, eminent domain is happening all around us. Since the Kelo decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, governments of all shapes and sizes have been emboldened to take what they want, when they want, and not look back. Hell, I even read where right here in San Antonio, on the same night they voted to take Mr. Cantu's property, they voted to eminent domain another man's property. This stuff is happening. You're just not seeing it that often because the press isn't covering it as much as they should. Again, too many things to be outraged about. So why this eminent domain case? I mean, I could spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week fighting nothing but eminent domain. With so many happening, I could be busy for the rest of my life. I mean, as you know, there are starfish everywhere. You might be surprised to learn the problem is so pervasive that there are attorneys that are now specializing in eminent domain cases. That's all they make their living off of is fighting eminent domain. That's how bad the problem has become. This case, however, as you know, is on the hallowed grounds of the Alamo. The Gonzales flag, come and take it, makes this situation especially ironic given the idea that men fought and died primarily to break away from an overburdensome, authoritarian federal government that took much and offered little in return. Sounds exactly like eminent domain to me. The irony is too great to miss, and plenty of news outlets have picked up on it too. I noticed just yesterday that Fox News finally ran a story on the Moses Roses situation. Us activists have worked hard to ensure the word gets out, that people take notice, so that ultimately Mr. Cantu gets treated more fairly than he was before we started. But this fight is greater than this one instance, and I choose to get involved specifically to help motivate people like you, like all of you that chose to show up today to take a stand, to stop this vile practice. Because what's to stop them from deciding that your property is what they want next, that your property is where they want to build that next road, even though they could go around? What happens when they come for each and every one of you? Who's going to be there? This whole thing reminds me of a poem you may be familiar with. It was written shortly after World War II by a Lutheran pastor. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and again, I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. The man that wrote this, you might be surprised to learn, was an anti-Semitic Nazi supporter whose mind got drastically changed when they imprisoned him in various concentration camps simply for speaking out against Nazi control of the churches. Think about that for a second. This man hated the Jews, and he come to find out that an authoritarian government was a far greater enemy than any one of his fellow men.
Satan's the enemy.
Hear, hear.
Satan is the enemy.
You know, this is fundamentally why the Libertarian Party is so focused on individual rights. Because if the government cannot oppress an individual, they cannot oppress a group, no matter which group you choose to be a part of. We do not see it. I say we, the Libertarian Party. We do not see this as a left versus right issue. We see the problems that face us as authority versus liberty. And we've chosen what side of that fight we're on. And so I choose to speak out, and I hope to motivate you to do the same. Now, as to the point at hand here today, there are two things that exist in this country right now that prove to each and every one of you that you can't own land. There is no land ownership in the United States of America. Don't be fooled. But you might say, Joe, my name's on my deed to my home. Well, it might be. But there are two things that prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that you don't really own that land. Obviously, eminent domain. Can anybody guess the second? Property tag. All right, cool. We got more libertarians in the crowd than I thought. As long as those two things exist.
What about these babies that got family and countries and
For freedom!
So essentially, you're just renting your land or borrowing it with the illusion that you own it until the government decides it's time for them to take it.
Jesus owns it all.
If the state can take our land whenever they want, you never really owned it. And as to the property tax, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but suffice it to say that if you can pay off your land free and clear and somehow live to see retirement, and then have your property tax raised to the point you can't afford to pay it, the government will step in and take your land and sell it to pay their taxes. How in the hell could that ever be considered American? How have we gotten to where we are today? We're currently telling the state to find another way, and fortunately it's resounding with a few of them, a handful of Republicans, 1 or 2 Democrats, with the backbone to champion that effort. But when it comes to eminent domain, we haven't been nearly as fortunate. In the case at hand, we see a Republican, Dawn Buckingham, who happened to be my House rep years ago. I've watched her climb the corporate political ladders. But we see a Republican at the state level walking hand in hand with Democrats at the city level to commit this travesty. And let me tell you, one of the quickest ways I know I'm about to get fucked is when they start working together. Now, boys and girls, JR mentioned this earlier, but I want to reiterate. When you take something that is not yours, that's theft. That's bad. I also never thought that I would see the day where I had to explain that to any living adult, let alone a 10-year-old, but apparently Don wasn't paying attention in preschool. Neither was the city councilor, at least 9 of them. And save me the bullshit spewed by the current and former land commissioners. I don't know if you paid attention on Twitter, but they've been going at Mr. Cantu, implying that he's greedy and trying to take advantage of the taxpayers by asking too high a price. That shit makes me sick, man. I don't give a good goddamn if you leave him $100 million. He did not want to sell. That shit's still theft. If you break into my home and steal my TV and leave $100 on the counter, you've still stolen it. The only difference in state law is I can shoot your ass on the way out. These people want to paint Mr. Cantu as hurting the public, as taking advantage. The only people hurting the public are these politicians because they refuse to even form a different plan. If you followed this, they haven't even tried to create another plan that works without his land. They haven't even tried to just go approach the willing sellers and do what it takes. Now, as a lifelong entrepreneur, let me tell you, that's just bad business. I don't know who this private development company, I haven't met them. I'm sure there's some smart people, but they've got blinders on. As an entrepreneur, if you're not prepared for every eventuality, you're gonna go broke or you're never gonna get the loan to start your business in the first place. The problem with these people is it's government money. So, you know how that goes. It's time to put a stop to this practice. Make no mistake, guys, this is tyranny. This is what tyranny looks like. This is the 20th and 21st century's version of tyranny right before your eyes. George Washington, some of our founding fathers, they would have been stacking bodies by now. But we're out here in a peaceful protest. Make sure you get that straight. We are peaceful. Trying to convince them, using their laws and their courts and attorneys, to do the right thing. Another thing I don't understand about this whole thing is when they haven't explored other plans, when you start, I know a lot of you probably haven't done any real estate development, but if you ever try to build a subdivision, you typically have to be under contract under the land first. You've got to know that you even have access to land or the ability to own the land before you even start your planning. From the very beginning, These guys have just assumed they were going to get his land without even talking to him, because they knew the law was on their side. They knew that if they couldn't get it for the price that they wanted, they'd just take the shit and give him whatever they felt like giving him, which is what we're in the middle of watching go down today. Also, they can build a tourist trap, some 4D theater, a museum, which, you know, hey, maybe that is good for the public. Maybe that's something that we need. Maybe that is in the public's best interest. But have they looked around? Have they tried to find any other possible place that they might put this thing? Any place really close to the Alamo that may already be owned by the public? Maybe some vacant land around. You guys see anything that might have worked for this theater? Jesus, guys, we're standing on a couple of acres of public property right here. But do they consider putting it here? No. The park's got to stay. Vince is the one that's got to go. I'll pause, guys, because I get so angry. I have to reel in what I might say, because this does piss me off to the core. But as I said, I sincerely hope that we can bring a peaceful resolution to this. I hope that we can put the pressure on the politicians to convince them to do the right thing. We'll never convince Don and the last commissioner and some of these politicians that what they're doing is wrong. We're not going to convince them of that. But we can put enough pressure on them. We can, as Justin said, hit that pain point. Make it become bad cost-benefit analysis for them. Put a price on this. Until that price is so high they're not willing to pay and they relent. That's what activism can do. I've seen it happen since I joined the Libertarian Party, since I finally got off of my entrepreneurial ass and engaged with the political spectrum. We can move mountains. Each and every one of you can do that. And the QR codes, just as an aside, I'm going to interrupt my speech a little bit. The QR codes that these guys have signs on, make sure that you get a picture of that. That's going to evolve. It's got a setup right now, currently kind of almost a rough draft, where you can start if you're encouraged and you want to act today. But tomorrow and over the next several days, we're going to continue to evolve that document as we determine what the highest quality steps are that you can take. So if you have 5 minutes to give, 2 hours to give, you can start at the top and start working your way down and help apply the pressure needed to solve this situation. One last thing. You know, we used to have a lot of people in this country that were willing to fight and die to stop communism, to stop tyranny. And we still have a few. Make no mistake, this is tyranny. And while I pray this situation can be worked out peacefully, please don't ignore that last bit. I do sincerely hope we can bring this to a peaceful conclusion, and then we can convince the government forces to pay a price Mr. Cantu and his family can live with to adequately compensate them for the theft that they are enduring. Make no mistake, I, for one, stand ready to defend his property until my dying breath, and I know plenty of other rednecks willing to do the same. If, like the Mexican government once did, this government pushes us too far, if Mr. Cantu decides he's unwilling to accept the pittance offered as consolation for that theft, and he chooses to take a stand, if that day comes, I will be here. I have pledged my life, everything I own, and all of my armaments to this man to defend this. If these fucking tyrants want to take it, we can play Alamo 2.0. We can play Come and Take It if they push us to that point. I'll leave you with one last saying, a saying I picked up a long time ago. I'm not a very educated man, and I don't know a lot of Latin, but I know one phrase, and it's stuck with me since I Googled it years ago. And if you're unfamiliar with it, please look it up, because it used to stand as a stark reminder to tyrants and politicians across the globe for hundreds of years, wherein they might have faced a guillotine if they pulled some shit like this. Today, it's lost a lot of its value, but for some of us hardcore types, for some of us true patriots, and let me make it clear, patriotism is not love of government, it's love of your country. And I love this country, and I love each and every one of you so much that I would put everything I've got on the line to defend your liberty. I don't care who you are, I don't even care if I don't like you. But when these politicians come to take our land, when they come to drop their tyranny at our doorstep, they need to remember, sic semper tyrannis.
Sic semper tyrannis. Let's keep it going for Joe Burns. I want to apologize for you. I forgot to tell you, the last 3 or 4 speakers that we have here are going to bring a little bit of heat. They're going to bring a little bit of passion. Okay, I've got Mimi coming up next, but before we get to our next speaker, something that Joe was saying there, I kind of wanted to riff on for a moment. He said, what did you say, George Washington and our forefathers would be stacking bodies by now or something like that. You know, how did we get to where we are is what Joe asked. And it really made me think, hey, here we are standing in Travis Park. I've got a very famous letter I want to read to you before our next speaker gets up here. Some guy named William Barrett Travis, the guy who this park is named after, wrote a very important letter when he was at the Alamo. First off, he wrote this at the age of 26. I'm a retired Navy guy myself, but at 26, I was not a lieutenant colonel in the Texas Army. He promoted a little bit faster than me. That's pretty awesome. Here's his victory or death letter from the Alamo. It says, fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged by 1,000 or more Mexicans under Don Buckingham. I'm sorry, Santa Ana. Sorry about that.
You got it right the first time.
I am besieged by 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Ana. I have sustained a continual bombardment for 24 hours, and I have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded a surrender. Otherwise, we are all to be put to the sword. I have answered this demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. I shall never surrender or retreat. I call on you in the name of liberty, in the name of patriotism, in the name of everything dear to the American character to come to our aid. If this call is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets his own honor and that of his country. Victory or death.
Here!
Sic semper tyrannis, indeed. I appreciate you bringing up that joke. Hey, I had a couple questions of where we are. I've got 3 speakers left. We're doing pretty good on the time check right now. I got 3 speakers left. After those 3 speakers are done, a couple of us are going to hang tight. We're going to close everything down, and then we're going to start a march over to Moses Roses. So if you just showed up, the plan is a couple more speakers. We're marching over to Moses Roses Hideout. There's going to be beer, there's going to be pizza, and we're going to hear from the man himself. So stick around. And then one final thing Joe pointed out there in his speech was that if you want to get involved, obviously there are people who are not comfortable with more violent approaches to ensure that a man's bar is not stolen. Follow us over at lpbear.org. Hit up any one of these QR codes that you see here. Follow us on any of the social media. We'll have a lot more to come on what our further efforts are. Okay, Mimi. Hey, my next speaker is Mimi Planas. She is she's of Cuban descent, and you'll find that out real quick. She hails to us from Miami, Florida, and we're so glad that she got here to Texas as soon as she possibly could. She is the president of Infuse SA, which is a local 501c3. They have a mission to advance personal and economic freedom, specifically here for the citizens of Bexar County. I love this organization. I'm a recurring donor to this organization. What they do is what we all care about. They hold public officials accountable. They hold public officials accountable. They have a no slant information section of their publication. Definitely go check that out. She's also a political consultant, Miss Mimi Planas. Come on up here. Give her a big hand.
Thank you. All right, I have a mic. I normally don't need one. And I'll be really quick. I like he mentioned, I'm Cuban, so I can get a whole lot in 5 minutes. So try and keep up, people. All right. So listen, I wore my freedom shirt today. Does anybody here believe in freedom? Yeah. Freedom, damn it, freedom, okay? And that is why we're here. So when I first heard about this, I'll be honest with you. I was talking to Chris, and Chris told me about this debacle. And I said, what the fuck, okay? What in the fuck is happening in this town, okay? So we at Infuse SA, we like to call our politicians out on their bullshit, right? So we have what we call the no BS zone on our site, infusesa.org. Go check it out, right? So we and you know these guys, first of all, half of them live with their parents, okay, and don't know what it's like to run a damn business, right? Go work, go run a I think that should be a prerequisite to run for office. Run a goddamn business so you understand payroll, so you understand paying rent, so you understand keeping people employed and their families employed, and the pressure that comes along with it. Amen, sister.
Children.
Amen, sister. Right? So these guys, they know nothing of that. You know, I wanted to run for city council, and you know why I didn't? It doesn't pay enough. It doesn't pay enough, right? And so, you know, they make it hard, you know, and the people that are swept on in are not qualified.
There's fucking children.
There's fucking children. Did I forgot to mention that I curse? I'm sorry. I do. I curse is what I do. I'm sorry. Right? Because freedom, and some more freedom. All right? So let's talk about eminent domain. Eminent domain is theft. It is theft. It's a government coming in and deciding when they can take your stuff. Right? Period. Now, a lot of people are all for it. Here in San Antonio. Why? I don't know. But if you ask them, hey, we're going to take your house because we need to add a kiddie pool to this park. Let's see how many people are going to be in favor of that one. Not too many, I think not. I think not. And, you know, what really gets my goat, let's just say it was for something important, right? Something that just has to happen for the good of this town because it has to happen, right? Let's just say, okay, cool, all right. But you want to put in a freaking 4D theater, right? You want to put in a 4D theater that's going to line the pockets of this city who's already rotten to the core. And I'm going to tell you that this is the no BS zone. No BS zone, right? I'm going to say this. Shame on you, City Council. Shame on you, Mayor Nuremberg, whatever your name is, right? Shame on you too. That guy, yeah. And you know why? Because if they knew really truly what freedom was, if they truly knew why the people here at the Alamo died to defend the Alamo, if they knew why, then they wouldn't have voted for this. But they don't know why, and they don't care to know why, because all they want to do is get elected to office, right? I mean, oh, I'm council. Oh, look at me, big council person, having, you know, this particular person week, and, you know, let's help this particular crowd day. And that's all they do, you know? And am I pissed off about it? You're damn right I'm pissed off about it, you know? We need people in, oh, and here's the deal. So I'm going to end with this. We have a Vote Local campaign going on, right? What does that mean? It means go vote local. Everybody gets caught up in the big elections, right? Look what's happening right here in our own backyard because people forget and they don't vote local. Now, and then you ask, but did you vote? Oh, I forgot. We have iPhones. They remind us. You have 2 weeks and then another day. So you have plenty of time to vote, right? All right, cool. So, and then I ask, well, who are you going to help in this coming election? What candidate do you believe in? Oh, well, I haven't decided yet. Well, who are you going to help? You know, I'll give them some money, but I can't walk because, you know, my knee. I don't give a shit. Buy a scooter. Go walk. Go knock on some doors. You know, well, I can't because my kids. I took my 3-year-old son block walking with me. If I could do it, you could do it, right? And my son's not 3, he's 16 now, right? But the whole point is that everybody's oh so offended. And shit's going wrong in this town. Well, go freaking vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go tell your neighbor to vote. Tell your boss to vote. Tell your friends to vote. And then decide who you're going to help. Oh, I want to help Chris. Then go knock on doors for Chris. Go make phone calls for Chris. Move your ass, right? So, you know, I just get a little fired up about that, right? You want this kind of shit to stop? Elect those clowns out of office. Like ASAP. ASAP. May 6th is the election. It's coming up. You're going to see our signs all over town. You're going to see our billboards up, right? We want to reach everybody and remind everybody when it's coming, and it's coming, guys. So get out there, go vote, make a difference, and get these crazy people out of office. It's time. Get a libertarian into office. Am I right? Chris Baecker, he's a libertarian. Everyone here, go vote for Chris. You know? All right, guys, listen, keep up the good fight. I'm fighting all the way through. Go elect those good people, and no matter what, don't take people's bullshit. All right? This is the no BS zone. All right, let's go.
Hey, keep it going for Mimi Planas. Thank you, Mimi. Okay, so I think you probably all heard me earlier ask if Judith was in the crowd. She is in the crowd. Judith is a good friend of mine. We actually have a thing every time I make fun of her Hideout or a beer. I'm about to owe you 3 more off this intro. There you go. There you go. Hey, Judith Reuter is just a tiny package and just a lot of liberty passion that comes in. She's known as a fixer. She's known as a trailblazer. She is a force to be reckoned with. She got her chops here in Texas. She was the director of the Texans for Jorgensen and Cohen, which was our official state-level campaign for the Libertarian Party presidential ticket in 2020. And she is currently the president of Vote Texas Gold, which is an institution, just Texas Gold now. Just Texas Gold now. Hey, it's an institution with a mission to advocate freedom right here in our own home. Give it up for Miss Judith Reuter.
Good evening, and wow, thank you for coming out. I'm glad I somehow made it. So just a couple of quick things. I wasn't the director of the campaign. I was one of the directors. They didn't want to call me the fixer. They called me the director of special projects. Whatever, I fix things. I know that a lot of people spoke before I have right now, and there will be others who will be far more eloquent and articulate on this topic. I just want to express the support from myself as well as Texas Gold. We are all about liberty and freedom and marketing liberty as never before by producing high quality commercials and getting them on mainstream. Because we're the choir, we need the people outside the choir to join it. And one of our obvious parts of the mission are we own ourselves, we own the fruits of our labor, and how dare any government try to take that from anyone? Unacceptable.
Amen. Amen. Totally unacceptable. Come on, someone take that.
And like I said, other people are far more eloquent, so I will give this up now. Don't let people take your property, and when your neighbor has their property under threat, help them keep theirs too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith. Keep it going for Judith Reuter. Okay, we got 2 speakers left. My next speaker, his name is Jeff Charles. He is a contributor over at Red State. He is a political commentator. He runs the Fresh Perspective podcast, as well as a Substack called Chasing Liberty. He is one of the most fierce advocates of liberty that I know. Give it up for Mr. Jeff Charles.
All right. I have a question. I want to start with a question. If I came to your house with a posse of armed thugs and said, I'll give you $5 for your house, or I'll just take your shit, what would you call that? You wouldn't call it eminent domain, would you? You'd call it theft. You would call it thuggery. You would call it all kinds of names that I probably shouldn't say right now because I've been informed that there are children here. But that is what we're dealing with today. Like, I understand the term is eminent domain,
But let's just call it what it is. This is theft. This is being carried out by thugs in suits and ties and smiles. But these thugs are even more dangerous because they won't do their thuggery on their own. They'll send other thugs to come and take other people's land because they don't want to pay a fair price for it. It is absolutely absurd. Cowards, exactly. Now, I was going to use a Frederick Bastiat quote to make you guys think I'm intelligent. But I'm feeling more like Malcolm X and Frederick Bastiat right now. Is that okay? Is that okay? Malcolm said, if you are unwilling to die for it, put the word freedom out of your vocabulary.
That's right. That's right.
And we're not even talking about dying for something, but if you're even unwilling to fight for it, put the word freedom out of your vocabulary. Right. I don't think I have to worry about that with anybody here, right?
That's right.
But there are too many people who are unwilling to fight. Now, Vince Cantu is a great man. I spoke to him on the phone. Did you know, last year, the gross state product of Texas was $2.4 trillion. But it's Vince who's the greedy one, right?
Yeah, right.
He's the one with the dollar signs in his eyes, right? He's the one trying to steal from taxpayers, right? Yeah. They have already spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this renovation project for the Alamo. But it's Vince who's greedy because he wants a fair price and he doesn't want a gun to his head to give up his property for a pittance. This city and this state will make possibly billions of dollars off of this renovation. But it's Vince who's the greedy one. I spoke to Vince on the phone. I wrote a piece about his situation with Red State, and I will tell you, when Carter first told me about the situation, my blood was boiling. It takes a lot to get me angry. This shit right here, that'll do it. Any type of theft makes me angry. But when you put the name of the government behind it, it's even worse. Because they have the monopoly on violence. And let's not kid ourselves. This is being done at the end of a gun. If he decides not to give up his property, what are they going to do? They're going to send men with guns and badges to forcibly use physical violence to remove him. When I spoke to Vince on the phone, I did not hear a greedy man. I heard a father. I heard a husband. I heard a businessman. I heard an American. Even more important, I heard a Texan. The way they're treating this family is absolutely ridiculous. I had the pleasure of meeting Vince's wife and his daughter as well. I didn't see dollar signs in their eyes. I see regular people who just want to be given a fair shake and they don't want to have their shit stolen from them. If one of us did something like that, we'd be thrown in a cage. Yep. But if you get elected to a certain position, you don't really have to worry about that now, do you? Right. But you know what they do have to worry about? They have to worry about people like us who will stand up and say that this is wrong. They fear people who are willing to apply that pressure. Politicians, God bless them, God bless you, Chris, but politicians in general are weak people, except when Chris gets elected, because that way we'll have an actual politician who isn't a pansy ass. So, what I really want to convey here is that the government, whether it's the mafia that we have in Texas or the mafia that we have in San Antonio, the La Cosa Nostra, who was governing this whole thing, and the council city members, and the mayor, I can't remember the mayor's name, Mayor Pendejo, is that what his name was? Yeah, that's his name, Mayor Pendejo.
We're going with that.
These people fear people like you who are willing to stand up, who are willing to get your neighbors engaged, who are willing to get involved in the process. Somebody said earlier, local politics is the most important. Your mayor has way more of a say or more of a direct impact over your life than the president does. And they count on our hesitance to get involved. We think it's the federal level that is the most important. It's not. Our government right now, they're not ruling by the consent of the governed. They're ruling by the fear of the fearful. We can't be afraid of these people. There are way more of us than there are of them. They should be afraid of us. So I'll leave you with this. I mean, it's like JR said earlier. This won't mean anything if we don't have action after this. This needs to be an ongoing effort. There are other people whose property is in danger from the city of San Antonio and from the Texas state government. And do not think for 1 second that this can't happen to you or somebody that you love. Whether you're in Texas, whether you're in Wisconsin, whether you're in Florida, all of these states have eminent domain, and they have no problem using it. So contact your congressperson, contact Mayor Pendejo, contact Don Buckingham. Get in their faces peacefully, peacefully. Get in their faces. You know what? Contact these local media assholes who are calling Vince greedy. They wouldn't even give him a chance to tell his side of the story. It's absolutely obscene. The media is just as bad as the government. They need to hear from each and every one of you. They need to hear from each and every one of your friends and family members. That's when they will listen. If we're silent, that's what they prey on. So get involved, scan those QR codes, and you know what, before I sign up, let's give Vince and his family a hand. Because they've been strong through this whole thing. Last time I visited San Antonio, it was for fun. I love visiting the city, but I do not like the reason why I even have to be here. It's wrong, but you know what? We can put a stop to it. We have strong people like Vince who are willing to fight against it. We have people like you and other Texans all over the state that are willing to fight against this type of tyranny and this government-sponsored thuggery. Thank you.
Hey, keep it going for Jeff Charles. We have one more speaker for you. So you got to get loud for this one. It's the last one. Once Doni is done speaking, I've got about 60 seconds of some administrivia, and we will start marching over towards Moses Rose's hideout. But first, let's get with Doni. Doni Anthony is her name, a.k.a. Doni the Don. She's an absolutely tireless advocate. If you are on social media, you've likely seen her stuff. She co-hosts Liberty Spaces on Twitter. She co-hosts the Liberty or Else podcast. She's got a couple Substacks over there. One also called Liberty or Else, and one that sounds like I'm really going to be interested in. It's called 3 Tars and 1 Feather Substack. So please put your damn hands together for Doni the Don.
Hey guys, how are you doing? Can y'all hear me okay? I'm not really a loud speaker, but I can try for you guys today. Okay, I saw a joke by a tyrant on Twitter. It wasn't funny. She said she's like the David against the Goliath. And she said that she sticks up for the little man. And it wasn't, I couldn't even laugh. It was disgusting. Don Buckingham put this on her Twitter account, you guys. Yeah, like as if we're idiots, like we don't know what's going on. You guys can go through her Twitter comment section, and it's everyone, a lot of you are telling her, no, you're stealing, this is wrong. You are not, no, you're Goliath, you're a tyrant. I love that you guys are correcting her when you guys are on Twitter. They need to see and hear it from us. And you know what? She's been getting ratioed. But I have a question for you all, actually. When did you guys consent to other human beings ruling over you? I don't recall ever saying it. Some people say, well, when you got your driver's license, some people say your social security card. That's not consent. Any kind of judge with any kind of brain in their head will say that's not a good contract. We never consented to be ruled by human beings, a few men. And I want to remind you guys that these are human beings. We're humans. We got skin, organs, toes, just like them. But for some reason, they think they're divine beings. They're Hercules, or they're the one that's Titans. Something huge and major. They have power over us. Our government was created by men. By men. Who is over what we created? Men. We are superior over the government. And we talk all the time. We the people have the power. We the people have the power. But I think it's about time we start acting like we have the power. When they tell you to steal from your neighbor, when they tell you that you have to do this, you have to do that, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you cannot smoke this, you cannot smoke that, when you can't do anything. You're not my mom. You're not Demetrius. You're not Carla. You're not my parents. So you cannot tell me what to do as we're not children anymore. And I want you guys to understand how important this is. This is our duty. We can't outsource our rights to anyone, not even just the Libertarian Party. You cannot outsource your rights to someone else. This is our duty to defend our individual liberties and freedoms. No one else is responsible for that. But can we come together like this Yes, we can. It is a moral duty for us to come together when we see someone being bullied. When I was a kid in first grade, I was in a fight every day because they were picking on people. And my parents were like, we can't keep coming to pick you up every day from school. You got to figure out how to do this without fighting people. And so I started thinking better. And I thought that was what worked. But I was winning all the time, so they decided next year just to leave me alone and leave people I liked alone. So, you guys, I have wrote something for you guys, and I have a solution. I don't like leaving conversations, but I need kind of solutions. Very short, very brief. I wrote a little thing. Man is superior to government. As we look at the world around us, we see that governments have grown and become more powerful than before. Many people view the government as the ultimate authority in their lives and have surrendered their liberties for the illusion of security. Security that we can provide for ourselves. But this is a dangerous path for us to follow. We must remember the governments are not gods. They are institutions created by man to protect our fundamental rights and freedoms. And because of this, we must remember that man is superior to the government. They can lick our boots. So, the solution. Are you all familiar with Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas State Constitution? If not, that's okay. Are y'all familiar with it? I'm going to give you a brief summary. The faith of people in Texas stand pledged to the preservation of a Republican form of government and subject to this limitation only. They have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as we may think expedient. It tells us we have to do elections. It says, however, we see fit. So when us patriots did not ask the Brits or the Tories, they didn't ask none of them for their rights to have their rights. They declared it. It's time for us to declare our rights. It's time to declare our freedoms, our life, liberty, property. Our pursuit of happiness is ours. It doesn't belong to anyone else besides us. And let's go and have a drink.
Hey, another round of applause for going to grab a drink, please. Hey, really appreciate all of you guys coming out today. Carter, where are you? Carter, hands up. Carter, here. We're going to start marching here in the next 3 to 5 minutes. Mr. Joe Burns, where are you? Hand up in the middle. He's also going to be quasi leading this. Those are good company to follow. Just follow them wherever they go. We're all going to go down, see the Travis and the intersection here. We're going to go between the buildings. You're only going to walk 1 block, hit the Voodoo Donut, take a left, 1,000 feet on your right, and save a seat for me at the bar. Now, when we get there, Vince is going to give us his remarks. So make sure, don't just leave Travis Park now. Head on down to Moses Roses. There's going to be food, there's going to be pizza, there's going to be beer. There's not going to be a formal agenda when we get there. Once Vince has his remarks, we're just going to talk about next steps. If I haven't personally met you, I'd love to meet you there when we're in the bar. Final thing, TABC has not read the Second Amendment. They do not want you to take the guns inside his bar, and we can't have that headline. So make sure if you have guns, we're not allowed to have them in the bar. It would disrupt negotiations. Finally, pick up after yourselves. There's some other different people who like to have protests, who like to have rallies, and they leave stuff everywhere. Please make sure that you have your signs with you. Take those QR codes. Hit a QR code before you leave Travis Park. That way you have information on next steps. Thank you all for coming out. One more big round of applause. Thank you much. Can I get your attention, please? Hey, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming out. J.R. Haseloff, I'm the chair of the Libertarian Party here in Bexar County. I want to thank you all if you're in Travis Park supporting us tonight. I want to thank you for coming out. I know Vince definitely appreciates it. We've got a few words from Vince coming up, but I want to say that I just got a text message from the executive director of the Libertarian Party of Texas. He wants to buy you free beer. The next $250 at the bar is on us. It's Andrew Amelang. He is the executive director of the Libertarian Party of Texas. He appreciates you all coming out. Thank you guys so much. Whatever I'm doing wrong. I'm going to hand this over to Vince Cantu, the owner of the Moses Roses Bar. Give him a big welcome.
I'm stunned, actually, that all you guys would take your spring break and come out here and support me. I'm honored, I'm humbled. I want to thank each and every one of y'all and shake y'all's hand before we all leave tonight, because eminent domain is one of those things that kind of picks you off one at a time, and you don't feel like you have a lot of friends when it happens, especially when it's the government that decides to do it in an abusive way, without any communication, owning all the press, owning all the, stalwarts of the community that would go up to a city council meeting and actually say in front of city council, yes, it's a good idea to eminent domain, private property on the grounds of Texas fucking freedom. I mean, how do you get people to agree to that? I mean, traitors. I wanted to go up and every one of them, I wanted to say traitor, 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 traitor. Because, this ground right here is the battlefield of what took place 1836, almost to the day, 187 years ago. And that battle meant something. It meant more than, well, let the government come over 200 years later and wipe me out and take it away from me and build a loading dock. It means more than that. It means freedom. It means private property rights. It means everything that every quality you think you have. Every quality you think you have, every attribute you think you have as a Texan came from here, right here on this ground right here. People deciding that it was worth fighting and dying over certain things like freedom and liberty and private property rights and being able to do what you want to do on your private property. And just to have the big government come over here, Santa Anna and 2,000 of his men, I mean, they had to be scared, but they stood up and they fought and they died for something that they believed in. And now 200 years later, our government is doing the same thing. Coming over here, scaring me. They told me in April that I had to, in June last year that I had to move all my furniture out of here. I've been out here for 10 years in this alley. They told me to move it all out of here. They had important work to do there. Well, that was 9 months ago. I mean, you could have had a baby already. They hadn't done shit out here yet. They told me in June that I had to do that. They told me again in September to move it all out. I moved some of it out to acquiesce them some, but I was like, look, you got to tell me something. You got to tell me what the work's going to be. You got to tell me how I'm going to get my fire exit working. You got to tell me where I'm going to put my trash cans. They told me we don't have to tell you anything. We don't have to give you any answers to any of your questions. 2 months later, they started eminent domain, and here we are. They told when they started eminent domain, they said I wouldn't come to the table, I wouldn't communicate with them, I wouldn't. We were at an impasse. The impasse we were at was they wouldn't even tell me where I was going to put my fucking trash cans. That was like they would not talk to me about anything, and they turned around in the paper because y'all were saying how the journalism is bought and paid for. Man, in this town. I mean, they came out and called me all kinds of stuff and said all kinds of stuff that never ever happened. And family and friends were like, really? Is that really? No. I mean, they never talked to me about having a negotiation with me ever. I always thought that we'd sit down and talk because I always told them it was for sale. I would always sell this property to them only if they needed it for the museum. I was always open to that. And I always thought we'd sit down and have a conversation one of these days and make a negotiation and it would happen. And instead, I wake up one morning and find out in the paper like everybody else they were going to steamroll me and eminent domain me. And that's just big government abuse, big government just saying, you know what, we can do whatever we want to anybody that we want to. We don't care even where it's at. It could be on the grounds of Texas liberty. We'll get 13 great San Antonio Texans to come out and say that's a good idea to do that on the grounds of the Alamo. I mean, cowards, traitors, all of them. And, for a while there I was super depressed. I never thought that real Texans, real people that I thought, there was one guy that got up and said something that was, a neighbor. My kid and their kid went to high school together, and that it was a good idea that we were at an impasse, and that this was a good use of eminent domain like there ever is one. But I mean, right here on the grounds of Texas freedom, I couldn't believe it. But that's big government power overpowering you, and I just felt so lonely and alone. I didn't know what the hell to do. I wanted to strike out at them, and next thing you know, I tried to set up a meeting with Dawn Buckingham, and she wouldn't meet with me. And then I heard after I heard she wouldn't meet with me, that she tweeted that the sacred grounds of the Alamo would not be, not be used for personal gain or whatever. And I was like, somebody sent me that tweet because I didn't know. My last tweet was 3.5 years ago. I had a tweet for 50-cent green beer on St. Patrick's Day. That was my last tweet. And then when they sent me that tweet, it was like, Twitter, oh, I remember that. So I got on there and learned how to do it and met all you great Americans, great Texans, support. Twitter's a powerful tool, and I mean, wow, I'm blown away by just within 6 weeks what I was able to do once I figured out Twitter and meeting all you guys. And I'm humbled. My family's humbled at your support. It's spring break and you're here. I know you'd rather be somewhere else. I'd rather be somewhere else, but y'all are here and I appreciate it. I don't feel, alone and single, like I'm taking this on myself anymore. I feel like I've got a lot of help. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I think eventually I'm going to probably make a deal with the government one way or the other. I mean, there are days that I feel kind of like the defenders probably felt. There are days where you feel outnumbered and overwhelmed, and you got, I'm afraid. These guys are so freaking powerful that, I don't know what's going to happen. And then there are other days, like today, where I got a lot of friends and a lot of support and a lot of people who aren't afraid of these people and will fight with me against these people. And those days I feel proud again. I feel brave, I feel patriotic, and I feel like a real Texan. And I tell you, until y'all showed up, I was the last Texan left right here. And now, I don't care where you're from, all you guys are true Texans, and I appreciate y'all being here, and I love y'all's support. And thanks for everything. I'll see you on Twitter, and I want to thank everybody that spoke tonight and everything else that y'all did. And I will keep y'all informed on the clock. Eminent domain is sort of a process that has a clock to it. There's 30 days between the first offer and the final offer, and then there's some more days that by statute you have to go by before they can actually condemn me. And if they don't treat me right, I'm going to tell you, we're all going to come back here and we're going to we're going to show them. We're going to show them that they need to respect and honor private property rights, and they need to get themselves in check and understand who they work for, because this is a bunch of bullshit. And I appreciate y'all being here.